Oklahoma is a land often remembered for its sweeping plains, Native American history, and oil fields. But beneath the surface there is a stranger, an older story carved into its rocks, buried in its caves, and whispered in its legends. Hidden across the state are baffling discoveries that historians and scientists still cannot fully explain. Artifacts that should not exist, carvings that predate known civilizations, and mysteries that challenge everything we think we know about America's past. Were there ancient travelers who reached Oklahoma long before Columbus? Did lost civilizations leave their mark here, only to vanish without a trace? And why do so many of these discoveries defy the timeline accepted by mainstream science? Today, we are diving deep into 8 unsolved mysteries from Oklahoma that continue to leave experts scratching their heads. The answers remain locked away, and the truth might just change history as we know it. The Heavener Runestone, in the small town of Heavener, Oklahoma, stands a massive sandstone slab covered in strange carvings. Known as the Heavener Runestone, this artifact has baffled researchers for over a century. The symbols etched into the stone strongly resemble Norse runes, suggesting Viking explorers may have reached the heart of America centuries before Columbus. Local legends claim the stone was a marker left by ancient travelers, possibly denoting territory or guiding other explorers through the rugged terrain. Yet skeptics argue it could be a modern hoax or the result of natural weathering that only looks like runes. However, several other runestones with similar markings have been discovered in Oklahoma and neighboring states, deepening the mystery. If genuine, the Heavener Runestone would rewrite history, proving that seafaring Norsemen journeyed far inland, navigating rivers and forests to leave their mark in Oklahoma. But until definitive evidence emerges, the stone remains one of the state's most puzzling artifacts, suspended between legend and history. The Spiro Mounds Enigma. The Spiro Mounds, located in eastern Oklahoma, are considered one of the most important archaeological sites in North America. Built by the Mississippian culture over 1,000 years ago, these massive earthworks served as ceremonial centers, trade hubs, and burial grounds. Yet what puzzles archaeologists most is the discovery of artifacts that seemingly do not belong there. Items crafted from seashells, copper, and even obsidian from faraway lands were found buried deep within the mounds, suggesting vast trade networks stretching thousands of miles. But even stranger are the artistic designs and symbols carved into some artifacts that do not align with known Native American traditions. Some scholars argue these items hint at contact with advanced civilizations from Mesoamerica or even cultures across the ocean. Others believe the mound builders possessed a level of cultural complexity that history has failed to recognize. Despite decades of study, many questions remain unanswered. Who exactly built the Spiro Mounds? How far did their influence reach? And why did they suddenly abandon the site centuries before Europeans arrived? The Anubis cave carvings in Cimarron County, Oklahoma, an isolated rock shelter known as Anubis Cave, contains a series of mysterious petroglyphs. Some researchers claim the carvings depict Egyptian symbols, including figures resembling the jackal-headed god Anubis. If true, this would suggest that ancient Egyptians, or travelers influenced by their culture, somehow reached Oklahoma thousands of years ago. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss this idea, arguing the carvings are Native American in origin, possibly linked to ritualistic ceremonies involving the sun and seasonal cycles. However, alternative researchers maintain that the precision of the images, their alignment with solstices, and their striking resemblance to old-world deities cannot be easily explained away. To this day, no consensus has been reached. Was Anubis Cave a sacred site for indigenous people, or is it proof of a forgotten chapter of global exploration? The cave's carvings stand as silent witnesses, guarding their secret against both erosion and time, leaving us with more questions than answers. The mystery of the buried city in Panhandle in the early 20th century. Rumors began circulating about a lost underground city buried somewhere in Oklahoma's Panhandle region. According to local tales, explorers stumbled upon a vast network of tunnels containing strange artifacts and skeletal remains of a people unlike any known Native American tribe. Some accounts describe hieroglyph-like symbols etched into the walls and chambers resembling ancient temples. Reports of this discovery briefly appeared in newspapers, but were quickly dismissed by mainstream archaeologists who claimed no such evidence existed. Yet the legends persist, and occasional treasure hunters still search the Panhandle for traces of the buried city. Was it all a tall tale invented to stir excitement, or could Oklahoma truly be hiding remnants of an ancient, forgotten civilization beneath its soil? Without physical evidence, the story remains a tantalizing mystery, one that continues to spark curiosity in those who wonder how much of America's past has been lost or deliberately concealed. The Poteau Runestone, while the Heavener Runestone gets most of the attention, another baffling artifact. The Poteau Runestone adds to Oklahoma's mystery. Found near Poteau Mountain, this stone also bears strange inscriptions that resemble Norse runes. Some experts argue it could be a hoax created by Scandinavian settlers in the 19th century, but others point to its weathering patterns and style as evidence of much older origins. The biggest question is not whether it is real, but how multiple rune stones appeared across the state in different locations. If they are genuine, they suggest repeated visits from Norse explorers who traveled far inland, possibly establishing temporary camps or trade routes. Mainstream history, however, refuses to acknowledge Viking presence this deep in North America, leaving the Poteau Runestone as an inconvenient puzzle. It stands today as another unsolved artifact that challenges the accepted timeline of exploration in the Americas. The Bell Witch Cavern of Oklahoma, tucked away in Oklahoma's rugged terrain, is a cavern shrouded in legend and strange reports. Locals have long whispered that the cave holds unexplained carvings, bones, and artifacts linked to an ancient culture. Some even connect it to supernatural tales, suggesting that spirits or curses guard whatever secrets lie inside. While scientists have explored portions of the cavern, they admit that many areas remain inaccessible due to collapses and unstable rock formations. What has been discovered? Odd symbols, unexplainable etchings, and remnants of rituals only deepens the mystery. Is the Bell Witch Cavern evidence of a lost culture that predated Native American tribes, or is it an elaborate hoax born from folklore and fear? Until the cave is fully explored and studied, its secrets will remain sealed in darkness, fueling speculation that Oklahoma still hides forgotten stories beneath its rocky surface. The Kiamichi Mountains petroglyphs, high in the Kiamichi Mountains of southeastern Oklahoma, are a series of strange petroglyphs carved into stone. These carvings depict humanoid figures, animals, and geometric patterns that do not align with known Native American traditions in the region. Some researchers suggest they are remnants of a forgotten tribe, while others believe they could be evidence of Columbian contact with cultures from across the ocean. Alternative historians argue that the designs bear uncanny resemblance to symbols found in ancient Europe and Africa. Mainstream archaeologists, however, caution against such interpretations, suggesting the carvings could simply be local artistic expressions lost to history. Still, the sheer mystery of the Kiamichi petroglyphs, combined with their remote location, makes them one of Oklahoma's most puzzling archaeological finds. They stand as mute reminders that not all of history has been written, and some chapters remain locked in stone. The Wichita Mountains Giant Bones, one of the strangest tales from Oklahoma's history, comes from the Wichita Mountains, where 19th-century settlers claim to have uncovered enormous human bones. According to reports, the skeletal remains measured far larger than any known human, suggesting that giants once roamed the region. Newspaper accounts described femurs, skulls, and entire skeletons that dwarfed ordinary human proportions. Some linked these discoveries to Native American legends of a race of giants who inhabited the land before being wiped out. Yet despite the sensational reports, most of the bones allegedly disappeared, leaving behind no verifiable evidence. Were they hoaxes created to attract attention, or was evidence of an ancient race deliberately suppressed to protect mainstream history? The Wichita giant bones remain one of the most debated mysteries of Oklahoma, lingering at the crossroads of folklore, archaeology, and conspiracy. The cryptic petroglyphs of Spiro Mounds, one of the richest archaeological sites in North America, continues to puzzle researchers with its strange carvings and symbols. Among the countless artifacts, archaeologists have found petroglyphs etched into stone that do not match the known writing systems of the Mississippian culture. Some of these carvings resemble geometric star patterns, spirals, and figures that could represent constellations or maps of the sky. Others seem to depict beings with elongated heads and unusual features, fueling speculation about possible contact with outsiders. The mystery deepens because many of these petroglyphs bear a striking resemblance to markings found in other parts of the world, such as South America and even Europe. Were these ancient Oklahomans part of a larger, interconnected civilization, or did they develop these symbols independently as a spiritual or ritual language? Despite decades of study, no one has fully deciphered the meaning of the carvings. The cryptic petroglyphs of Spiro remind us that there are still messages from the past hidden in plain sight, waiting to be unlocked. The peculiar red bird effigy in eastern Oklahoma, archaeologists unearthed a mysterious clay effigy shaped like a bird, painted in vivid red pigment that has not faded after centuries. This artifact, known as the red bird effigy, is unlike other ceremonial figures from Native American traditions in the region. The bird appears to be stylized in a way that suggests it held symbolic power, possibly representing a messenger between the world of humans and the spiritual realm. Some researchers believe it could be linked to the mythical Thunderbird, a figure of immense power and divine judgment in native legends. What baffles scientists is the origin of the pigment itself, which has resisted modern chemical analysis and does not seem to come from any local mineral sources. This suggests either lost knowledge of natural pigment production or trade with distant cultures. Its placement inside a burial mound adds another layer of mystery, implying it may have been part of elite rituals. The red bird effigy challenges conventional ideas of cultural isolation and hints at a deeper symbolic system lost to time. The subterranean chambers at Robbers Cave State Park is known today as a rugged landscape for adventurers, but beneath its surface are tales of subterranean chambers whose origins remain unexplained. Some historians believe these chambers were carved by outlaws hiding from authorities in the 1800s, but there are stories of much older tunnels, stretching far deeper and lined with stone. Local legends suggest they were used by ancient tribes for secret ceremonies or as emergency refuges during conflict. Archaeological surveys have found narrow passageways and unusual cuts into the sandstone that do not match natural erosion. Some treasure hunters claim to have seen symbols carved into the walls that resemble those found in Old World cultures, suggesting they may be remnants of early explorers who reached Oklahoma long before Columbus. Despite multiple excavations, no definitive explanation has emerged. Were these chambers truly man-made, and if so, who built them and why? The Robbers Cave mystery has fueled speculation of hidden civilizations beneath Oklahoma's hills, their secrets locked away in stone corridors. The disappearance of the Washita stone village near the Washita River accounts tell of a lost stone-built village discovered by early settlers in Oklahoma. Unlike typical wooden structures of native tribes in the region, these dwellings were made of carefully cut stone blocks fitted together without mortar. Reports from the 1800s describe the site as extensive, with walls that seemed too sophisticated for the time period. When researchers later tried to locate the village, it had vanished, either dismantled by settlers or swallowed by the land itself. What makes the tale even stranger is that tribes in the area claimed no knowledge of the village and suggested it was built by the Ancient Ones, who had lived there long before them. Some believe the stone village could be linked to the legendary mound building cultures, while others think it might be evidence of pre-Columbian contact from overseas travelers. The Washita Stone Village remains one of Oklahoma's most tantalizing lost sites, leaving behind only fragments of stories and unanswered questions. The Shaman's Crystal Cave. In the Washita Mountains of southeastern Oklahoma lies a cave that has fascinated explorers for decades. Known locally as the Shaman's Cave, it contains veins of quartz crystal that were clearly mined in ancient times. Archaeologists discovered tools and signs of deliberate extraction, suggesting the cave held spiritual or ceremonial importance. Quartz has long been associated with healing, visions, and communication with the spirit world, and it is possible that shamans used crystals from this cave in sacred rituals. What makes the site mysterious is the discovery of crystal formations shaped into geometric patterns, as though intentionally arranged. Some researchers believe these patterns may have been used for astronomical purposes, aligning with solstices or star positions. Others think the cave served as a portal in native belief systems, a place where shamans could enter altered states of consciousness. Science can confirm the mining but cannot explain the symbolic designs, leaving the Shaman's Crystal Cave as a place where myth and archaeology blur. The riddle of Heavener Runestone's companions. The Heavener Runestone is the most famous Norse-related mystery in Oklahoma, but it may not be the only one. Over the years, researchers and locals have reported finding additional carved stones in surrounding areas, some bearing runic-like inscriptions and others marked with unknown symbols. These so-called companion stones have stirred heated debates. If authentic, they could suggest that Norse explorers traveled further inland than previously believed, possibly navigating rivers into Oklahoma. Critics argue that the carvings were made by settlers in the 19th century, imitating Old World scripts. However, the weathering on some stones appears older than that time frame, fueling speculation that more lies beneath the surface of this mystery. The biggest question is why these stones were placed where they were, often in secluded locations, as though meant to mark territories or ceremonial sites. Without definitive dating, the riddle of the companion runestones remains unsolved, leaving the possibility open that ancient visitors left their mark on Oklahoma soil. Of the Poteau River, one of the strangest archaeological accounts in Oklahoma involves reports of unusual skeletons discovered along the Poteau River in the late 1800s. Local newspapers at the time described the remains as abnormally tall, with some skeletons reaching nearly 8 feet in length. Alongside the bones were copper ornaments, stone tools, and pottery unlike that of known Native American cultures in the region. Some suggested they were ceremonial burials of a lost tribe, while others jumped to the idea of a race of giants. The lack of preserved evidence makes verification difficult, as most of the remains disappeared into private collections or deteriorated without proper study. Skeptics argue that mismeasurement or exaggeration played a role, while believers insist that the accounts prove an unknown people once lived in Oklahoma. The Poteau skeletons remain a controversial piece of local lore, reminding us that sometimes history leaves behind only whispers of its strangest inhabitants. The mystery of the stone serpent. High in the hills of eastern Oklahoma lies a serpentine mound structure made of stone, often compared to the famous Serpent Mound in Ohio. Locals call it the Stone Serpent, and it winds across the landscape in a sinuous shape that resembles a snake poised to strike. Archaeologists are unsure of its age, but native oral traditions suggest it may have been built by ancient mound building cultures as a site of ceremony and cosmic alignment. Some researchers believe the serpent points to significant celestial events such as solstices or lunar standstills, indicating an advanced understanding of astronomy. What makes it even stranger is that the stone serpent has never been fully mapped or excavated, leaving much about its origin unknown. Was it a sacred site for rituals, a symbolic representation of a mythological being, or perhaps a territorial marker built to impress rivals? The stone serpent remains one of Oklahoma's least understood ancient landmarks, hiding secrets in its coiled stones. The ancient petroglyphs of Turkey Mountain, on the bluffs overlooking the Arkansas River near Tulsa, lies Turkey Mountain, a place wrapped in legends and mysterious carvings. Scattered across the rocky surface are petroglyphs that appear to depict symbols, humanoid shapes, and even what some claim resemble runes or ancient alphabets. While mainstream archaeologists suggest these could have been created by Native Americans centuries ago, others argue the symbols do not match known tribal designs. Some researchers claim they resemble Old World languages such as Norse runes or Ogham script, fueling theories of ancient pre-Columbian contact. Turkey Mountain has long been considered a sacred and spiritual site by native tribes, so the true origins of the petroglyphs remain clouded by myth and speculation. The site continues to attract explorers, spiritual seekers, and skeptics alike, each leaving with more questions than answers. Could these carvings represent an ancient record left behind by travelers from across the seas, or are they misunderstood symbols from Oklahoma's indigenous past? Whatever their origin, the carvings on Turkey Mountain remain one of Oklahoma's most intriguing unsolved mysteries. The Heavener Runestone, perhaps one of the most debated artifacts in Oklahoma, is the Heavener Runestone. Discovered in the 1830s near Heavener, this massive slab of sandstone contains carved symbols that many insist are Norse runes. If authentic, it would suggest that Vikings sailed far inland through America and left behind a written marker in what is now southeastern Oklahoma. However, mainstream scholars often dismiss the stone as either a hoax or a misinterpretation of native carvings. Others believe the inscriptions were carved in more recent times by Scandinavian settlers in the 19th century. But the stone has remained a source of fascination, with additional smaller runestones reportedly found in nearby locations, reinforcing the possibility of a Norse presence. Supporters of this theory point out that Vikings were known explorers who reached North America centuries before Columbus. Could it be that they ventured deep into the continent, leaving their marks in Oklahoma? Whether genuine or fraudulent, the Heavener Runestone has carved a permanent place in the state's history and remains one of its most enduring enigmas. The mysterious Spiro Mounds, one of the most significant archaeological sites in Oklahoma, is the Spiro Mounds, a massive complex once belonging to the Mississippian culture. Built between 800 and 1450 AD, the site was a thriving trade center filled with ceremonial mounds and elaborate artifacts. Archaeologists have unearthed items crafted from shells, copper, and even materials from as far as the Great Lakes and the Gulf of Mexico, suggesting far-reaching trade networks. What makes Spiro especially mysterious are the spiritual and symbolic artifacts discovered within, including masks, effigies, and ceremonial regalia that hint at a highly complex belief system. Some artifacts even depict cosmological symbols and beings that scholars still struggle to fully interpret. Why this advanced culture suddenly abandoned Spiro around 1450 AD is another puzzle. The city fell into silence, its once great people vanishing with little trace. Were they destroyed by drought, disease, or conflict? Or did they deliberately abandon their sacred city for reasons unknown? The Spiro Mounds remain both a treasure trove of ancient knowledge and a haunting reminder of mysteries that science still cannot fully explain. The mystery of the anomalous stone tools scattered throughout Oklahoma. Farmers and archaeologists alike have uncovered stone tools that do not seem to match the technology of known indigenous groups. Some of these tools are shaped in unusual ways, as though designed for tasks not common to the region. In some cases, the tools appear older than the established timeline for human habitation in Oklahoma, sparking debate over whether they point to an earlier, unknown civilization. A few researchers suggest they might belong to the legendary pre-Clavis people, who could have settled North America thousands of years earlier than mainstream science recognizes. Others theorize they may have been dropped by transient groups who passed through the region but never stayed long enough to leave behind a larger cultural footprint. The greatest mystery is not only who made them, but why they are found in areas without other signs of habitation. These tools raise the possibility that Oklahoma holds a hidden prehistory that has yet to be fully revealed, adding another layer of intrigue to the state's enigmatic past. The underground caves of eastern Oklahoma throughout the Ozark foothills and the Washita Mountains of eastern Oklahoma. There are accounts of extensive underground caves filled with strange artifacts and skeletal remains. Some early explorers claim to have found burial chambers containing unusually tall skeletons, while others reported inscriptions and markings on the walls that looked foreign. Over the decades, many of these caves have either collapsed, been sealed, or fallen victim to looting, making it difficult to confirm the truth of these stories. Skeptics argue that tales of lost cave civilizations are exaggerations or folklore passed down through generations. Yet locals still whisper about secret cave networks that connect across state lines, possibly used by ancient tribes or even by outsiders long before Native Americans arrived. If these stories are true, the caves could contain records of a forgotten chapter of human history. The mystery remains unsolved, and every new discovery of hidden chambers in Oklahoma renews the speculation: were these merely sacred burial sites of local tribes, or the remnants of an even older, unknown people? The legends of the tall giants, among the most unsettling mysteries of Oklahoma, are stories of giant skeletons uncovered during the 19th and early 20th centuries. Farmers plowing their fields reported discovering human bones that suggested individuals towering well over 7 feet tall. Some claimed the remains showed features unlike those of Native American tribes, leading to speculation about a lost race of giants. These tales echo legends from native traditions, which spoke of mighty beings who once walked the earth before being defeated by their ancestors. Skeptics dismiss these accounts as misidentifications of large animal bones or exaggerations. Unfortunately, many of the alleged skeletons disappeared into private collections or were never properly recorded, fueling conspiracy theories that the evidence was deliberately suppressed. While no conclusive proof exists today,